Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Espresso and Kabbalah, where we tune into the mystical wisdom that the Alter Rebbe teaches us. So happy that you're back. It's really nice to have you all around our table. And we are currently on page 185 of the Practical Tanya by the Alter Rebbe, and this book was adapted by Rabbi Chaim Miller, who brings the ancient, beautiful Hebrew words of the Alter Rebbe into modern, relatable, and practical English. Cool?
Cool.
Amazing. So first of all, I want to wish everybody a l'chaim. Cheers to good health for everyone, and happiness, and success, and bracha, and hatzlacha, and good things in everything you do. You should just experience peace, and inner peace, and harmony, and joy, and clarity, and fulfillment in all our relationships, and all of our goals, and everything should just bring the world to the ultimate peace of Mashiach right now, reunited in Jerusalem. That's where we all want to be, right? You don't live too far from Jerusalem, right?
No, like 1 hour.
Cool. Which city?
Lud.
Oh, nice. So we have guests from all over today, hailing from the Northeast, and we're really thrilled to be here. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihya b'dvaro. L'chaim, l'chaim, Yerushalayim. So, can you all hear over the noise of the construction background? It's fine. Okay, so we have just begun. Last week we rolled into chapter 15, Parak Tesvav of the Tanya. And in this chapter, the Alter Rebbe is discussing a brand new kind of section where it's like, we have the Beinoni, we talked about this in-between character, the person who is not a tzaddik, he's not perfect, he didn't slaughter his animal soul, right? He struggles, he's a real person, but he's also not a rasha, he's not a wicked person who fails and lets the Yetzer Hara win. He doesn't let the evil inclination win. So he's in between. And last week we started talking about avoiding rote worship, which means avoiding just like doing things that you do because you're born that way, doing things because you're used to it. It's like even if you're in a relationship and you do all the relationshipy things and you say I love you and you support each other and you're like in it in a real way, like, you know, we're all good at doing life, but when we forget to put in that extra effort and we forget to go that extra mile, then it like lacks that special sparkle that happens when we, you know, when you make your kids lunch, you can either put in, you know, the sandwich, the snack, the juice, the whatever, or you can like add something special, you know, write a note that I love you, or, you know, give them that extra kiss on the way out the door. That extra little bit takes it over the top, right? Because it can be 100%, but today we're going to talk about when you go a little bit over the top to make it super duper duper special and super duper extra. And that's what Hashem treasures so much when we say, you know, like, I ran on the treadmill and now I'm just going to run a little bit more. Or I did weights and now I'm just going to lift them one more time. Or, you know, I'm pushing myself to do something that's a challenge. Just that one more push, like any marathon runner or something that you guys push yourselves in. Like sports. Swimming, right? That extra, that one more second, that's what gives us that, you feel that rush at the end of the day, like I did something good, like it's like that good tired, we hit the pillow and we're like, oh, good night's sleep, like I really pushed myself today, and that feels good. And the reason why it feels good is because that's how our soul wants to be. I usually have a candle right here. Our soul is like a fire. Yeah, it's right there. Our soul is like a fire, and the fire is always jumping up. It's okay. I'll get it soon. Thank you. Our soul is always jumping up, wants to like leap into the atmosphere. And if you think about a soul jumping into the atmosphere, like a flame jumping into the atmosphere, imagine a candle. There's wax, a wick, and a flame. If the flame gets its goal, where it leaps up into the sky, it's actually committing suicide because there's no more candle. The flame is finished. So why is it jumping so much, right? Why is a candle constantly in a state of wanting to have suicide? Why does it want to extinguish itself and leave the candle? It doesn't make any sense, right? Most of Earth, a rock, gravity, it's on the ground. It's living life. It's not trying to die. Why does a candle seem to want to extinguish itself?
You want to connect to its source.
It wants to connect with its source, which kind of means that it's going to look gone. But like you said, it's actually going back to its ultimate source of fire, which is written in the Tanya that it's under the moon, there's a source of fire. So it's really trying to go home. The same with the soul. And it's written in Chassidus that the only reason that we even have fire in this world is so that we can have a little tiny glimpse of understanding of what is a soul and why does she want to go back to her source all the time. And that's why we have fire, so that we can look at something physical in this world, like a real life example, and then we can say, that's what my soul is trying to do. She's not just trying to leave this world. She wants to go back to her source, and her source is Hashem, and Hashem wants us to be in this world. So it's like we're attached down here, but we always want to strive to be higher. So we're going to discuss the Benoni today, the in-betweener on page 185. And I'm excited to begin. Everybody ready?
Why effort matters.
Why effort matters. So good to sweat, right? To even if it's in an intellectual way, if we're working really hard on creating something or studying, it feels good to have, what's the word for effort in Hebrew? When you push yourself and you put in that, what's the word? Effort?
Well, I really understand.
Right.
Well, as a teacher, you would often say, if a child would get a C- in a class, they'd be like, oh, I did so poorly, I got a C-. But you could get an A for effort and a C-, which meant you really tried. The material was just really hard.
Yes.
So as long as you're trying, it's okay that you didn't get an A. You know, if you got a C- and you got an F for effort, well, that would be bad. It meant you didn't try your best.
Exactly.
But you try, and sometimes it's just not what you're greatest at.
Yeah.
You know, you did really well. Okay, so you didn't do so great in math, but you did really well in Tanya, because Tanya's where your strength is. And
Sorry.
Not everybody can do math.
100%, exactly. Effort is everything. So we're going to jump right in. Ubazeh Yuvan, top of page 185. We're in the middle of chapter 15 of the Tanya. Ubazeh Yuvan Masha Kasuv B'Gemara. Based on this, all this that we discussed last time, we can explain the Talmud statement, Da'aved Alekim Hainu Mi Sheshayna Pirkai Mea Pa'amim V'Echad. That one who serves God, referring to, right, we said an Oved, someone who worships Hashem, that's how he lives his life. It refers to a person who reviews his studies 101 times. Yeah, sure, of course. 101 times. And one who doesn't serve God, right, he's considered layavadai. This refers to a person who reviews his studies only 100 times. So we have this 100, you don't serve Hashem. 101, you do serve God. How could it be? One time makes such a big difference? As the Talmud itself asks, after reviewing a lesson 100 times, a single extra review would seem to be relatively insignificant. Why should this earn the student the venerable title of one who serves God, right? It's like all in that one little extra, teeny extra bit of effort. V'hainu mishum she b'mehem haya hergilas l'shanais kol parak mea pa'amim, because in those days it was actually normal to review each lesson 100 times. That was, I guess, standard practice for the boys in the school, or the girls in the school. Your level of worship doesn't determine if you're serving God or not. What matters is if we are extending ourselves beyond what is normal and comfortable to us. Remember that comfort zone? There's a nice little circle that surrounds us. That's our comfort zone. Safe, comfortable, happy. And then the second we take one step out of that comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. That's where we get to change and we get to the next levels of improvement and growth and inspiration. It's just one tiny step outside of our comfort zone. So what does it say? If it's normal to review your studies 100 times, then to do it 101 times is service. K'de'isa hatam begamara mashal mishuk shel chamarim. As the Talmud itself offers an analogy from the donkey driver's rental market, she niskarim l'asar parsei bazuza, where the donkeys could be hired for 10 Persian miles for 1 zuz, 1 silver coin. V'la'achad asar parsei bisrei zuzeh, whereas for 11 Persian miles, just 1 mile more, they charge double. 2 zuzim, mipnei shehu yaiser margilosam. Just because that extra mile extended them beyond their norm. So, hey, my donkeys can go for 10 miles, no problem. They do that every day. You know, they're just used to a 10-mile run. That's what they do. If you're going to ask them to go 11 miles, 11 Persian miles, we're charging you double. Because that's outside their comfort zone, which is actually kind of comforting, because if we think about it, it makes sense that 1 extra mile is double the effort, right? Because it's pushing ourselves way beyond what we normally do. So we have to give ourselves a credit that it might just be 1 more step or 1 more minute or 1 more mile, but we have to give ourselves a big, kudos and pat on the back for really doing something amazing. That gets double the reward, double the effort. What exactly is added here by the analogy from the donkey rental market? There seems to be no fresh insight here, and the key point here is that the donkey is rented. It never becomes ours. That resembles the relationship between us and our animal soul. It may have, page 186, turning to the next, it may have all sorts of urges that we can't fully control and own, but we can hire the animal soul to serve God. Do you guys want to, Rafa, do you want to go play outside? Thank you so much.
He's too delicious.
I know, he's so cute. Okay, so what happens with the animal soul and the godly soul and the person? We have this underlying question in this chapter, right? We're in-betweeners, hopefully. We're never going to transform our inner core. We're always going to be human, sort of selfish, sort of egotistical, trying to, get outside of our own tunnel vision and be here for others. We're here to become giving people and loving people, and we're here for others, right? Because as a child, we're born kind of egotistical, right? Like children are naturally, they look out for themselves, and as we grow, we mature and we look out for others. So we're never going to fully get rid of the animal soul. Can we still be considered serving God? Can we still be considered whole and beautiful people? And the answer is unequivocally yes. The Tanya says yes, you can rent your animal soul in the service of God. Remember how we talked about our animal spirit? We can take it over to the godly side. And if we feel like we're a horse or a lion or a snake or a leopard or a sheep or whatever animal we feel like we are, we can say, hey, I'm not going to be a selfish sheep or a snake or horse or lion. I'm going to make that animal kind of godly and fulfill a godly purpose. As long as we extend our animal beyond its natural comfort zone, it will be considered real service. Because animals, they're instinctive, right? You see an animal outside, they're just doing their own thing. They want to be happy, they want to be fed, they want to sleep, they want to play with their friends. Like they're kind of just in their own bubble. What makes us special as a medaber, as a human being who can speak and react and interact in that way, we can take ourselves a step out of our comfort zone and we can soar. And we're standing on 2 legs, right? A human being is a mehalech, We're not on hands and knees like an animal, because we can look to the sky, we can dream, we can imagine, we can inspire, we can truly lift ourselves out of the confines of being human, of being a mammal. We're not just mammals, even though we're maybe genetically have similarities to goat's blood and other primates' minds. Like we have, oh yeah, we're just smart animals. No, we're actually able to get way beyond the animalistic version of ourselves and soar. So, l'chaim to that. V'lachein zayis hapa'am hamea v'achas. So, cheers to reaching for the stars and really becoming the most amazing, incredible version of ourselves that we can be, and being here for others to make this world a godly place. Cheers. On that note, when, right, we go back to that student in class or that person on their workout, when the student revises his studies for the 101st time, Hayasera al hargilas shahurga min urav, over and above the norms ingrained in him since childhood, shakula keneged kulan, that one time counts as much as all of the other 100 times put together. So it's so incredibly valuable, precious, loved, and treasured to God, to Hashem, when we push ourselves that one extra step out of our comfort zone, more than all of the other steps put together. Right? Like we have status quo, like what we do on a weekly basis, how we get ready for Shabbos, how we get ready for our day, how we perform our jobs and responsibilities and tasks at work. That's just what we do. That's our comfort zone. This is my personality. This is how I was born. It's great. It's great work. It's beautiful, but it's comfort zone. It's got that like element of ease. And that one extra time is so incredibly difficult because it's not what we're used to. It maybe breaks a little bit of our nature. It maybe breaks a little bit of what's easy and comes naturally to us. Mm-hmm. You know, even just holding our tongue when we want to say something that comes naturally to us, that maybe will hurt someone's feelings. Just that one little step of like, instead of just doing what I naturally do, I'm going to push myself beyond what I can naturally do. That is incredibly treasured and has so much value. Back to the Tanya words, Ve'ayla al gabeyan b'yeser she'es v'yeser eyes. Sorry. And surpasses them in significance with more dignity and more power. Genesis 49:3. Liyais nikra ayved elikim. So this person can be called one who serves God. So who serves Hashem? Who's that true warrior of spirit who is getting out of his box and serving God? Which person? The one who does it 100 times or the one who does it 101?
101 times gets out of the box.
Exactly. The 101st, the 101st first time gets him to that next level. As the Baal Shem Tov taught, middle of page 186, that with the 101st revision, we draw the one, the Aleph, into our studies, namely the master, Alufai of the world, the Alufa Shel Olam, and it becomes study for the sake of heaven. So instead of just, studying to ace your chemistry exam or studying to get your degree or studying to get your certification, when you do it that one extra time, it becomes like for a higher purpose, right? Godly. Very it gets a special quality. Mipnei. Now we're going to discuss how to change our nature.
I think it's funny is I think that one time is the only time you realize that you've done it. Because I think sometimes if you think about Shabbos,
that's
the things
such a
that
good
you're
point.
doing when you're preparing for Shabbos, you don't really think about it. Mm-hmm. It's just you do it every week and you do it and you do it and you're not really thinking about it. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, there's something missing. I should do this. That's the only thing you thought about doing.
Exactly. That's such a good point.
The 100 things just happened.
Yes, totally.
So you don't think that you've done 101. You think you've done one thing.
I know. It's so true because it's that's when we wake up. So true. I totally relate to that. How do we change our habitual nature, right? We're born with, you can take a personality quiz. This is who I am. Maybe that's it. Because to change our habitual nature, we have to awaken within ourselves love of God. This is like the secret key, because otherwise how can we change ourselves? Through mindful meditation, and we always kind of get back to meditation in the Tanya. It's one of those things that just keeps coming up again and again. Mindful meditation, and it's not necessarily meditation like on the apps, like, okay, now just close your eyes and breathe and think about, something beautiful or peaceful. It's kind of like a very focused, like intellectual meditation, like, okay, right now I'm going to focus and think very specifically about why God is important in my life, or, it's very mindful. So mindful meditation on the greatness of God, right? Right? When we meditate on the greatness of God, then we can have control over our natural disposition, right? Because God is so great, and He created me, and I can do this. It gives us like perspective. And the natural disposition, remember we talked about the heart and the blood, that's located in the left chamber of the heart. Hamale dam hanefesh habahamis shemeh klipa. That's filled with the blood of the animal soul, which is from klipa shemimenahu teva. And that's the klipa where our nature comes from, like the way that we're born, our temperament. So what's the story here? Like you just said, someone who does something the same way every week, right? The Beinoni who doesn't serve God, he may behave impeccably every way. It can be a gorgeous Shabbos table with all of your heart's desires and everyone's favorite recipes and beautiful china, but it may be because that's what he trained himself to do, right? He's like the Beinoni who doesn't serve God in that way. Since his animal soul doesn't incite him to violate God's will, he leaves it unchallenged. But serving God requires wrestling with ourselves to become better people. That means an ongoing process of actively strengthening our divine soul over the existing hold of our animal soul. And for this, the Tanya recommends regular mindful meditation on the greatness of God to stir up real emotions. Because it's almost like to counter those deep emotional desires of the animal side, we need deep emotional desires on the godly side, right? Because how can you counter this like bloodthirsty, animalistic, passionate, like driving force with cold intellect? It's not even, right? If one side is like, oh, look at this, it's so beautiful and amazing, and it's bringing all of your emotions over, right? Any marketing campaign, they get you by your emotions. They tell you, ooh, you're going to feel amazing if you buy this product and you purchase this item or whatever. So it's very hard to counter that with cold logic, like, well, it's not worth it, or it's not necessary. Like, that's not a very good argument for something so emotional. It can kind of pale in comparison to those beautifully exciting emotions. So the Alter Rebbe says, let's beat it at its own game. Let's counter it with deep godly emotions. God is so mystical and powerful and grandiose and larger than we can possibly imagine. God created this beautiful world with every detail is just bursting with wisdom, and creation is so wondrous and so full, and just examining a leaf or examining anything in nature is just bursting with so much wonder that we could never even know fully. And wow, God is so great. Wow, God is so amazing. And it gives us like a bit of awe and love and reverence and feeling. And that feeling says, oh, okay, you want something physical? Like, it becomes an easier fight. We can then win. We can win over the evil inclination. Sorry. I'm so sorry about the noise. Thanks. And top of page 187, Vizo Ki Avoda Tama Lebenoni. And this is the ideal worship for a Benoni. What is the ideal worship? Not just to be perfect, not just to be the best version of ourselves, but to wrestle and grow. And until we become tzaddikim or we're born that way, then struggle will be our perfection. Struggle is the best thing that we can do. We're becoming the best versions of ourselves. What's Rabbi Beryl doing? It's actually construction. Sorry about the noise. Any questions? Anyone have something that they thought about during this topic? L'chaim.
Well,
I agree with what Joe said. You know, you do the same thing all the time. I've been doing it, you know, for 16 years. And gee, you know, there really is something else that I could add to it, or I could do a little bit differently. I thought that was great.
Yeah. Do you feel like there are things that you just almost got into autopilot doing? Like you're just so comfortable doing it that way, and like, why would I ever change it, right?
Like I make challenge here, I don't make challenge at home. I don't make challenge.
I know, it's so hard to like change something we're used to.
I make chicken at home, I don't make challenge here.
Exactly. It's true. Most of the things that we really want to do aren't that difficult. It's just that it's not what we're used to.
Yeah.
If you think about it, right?
You just get your routine.
Yeah. How can we break that routine? How can we like inspire ourselves to burst out of that? Anyone online, feel free to comment if you figured out a hack. But how can we like break out of that almost rut, like something that we just do the same way all the time and never change?
Very true.
How do we get out of it and do something new? That we want to do, obviously, something that adds value and goodness.
And, you know, I think of what did we do when my children were very young? You know, we were married about 5 years before we had our first child.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it like when?
Why don't you do that now? And why don't you do that now?
Right. It's true.
So what is it that you wanted to change?
That's what we should do. And then how about when we moved and we had our second child, and the first child was a little bit grown up and he was learning how to deafen a little bit, you know, and following his father.
So you got into a routine with the children.
Right, exactly.
Totally, yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, we'd have company on Shabbos, and usually they were people who were Shabbatistic and they understood, but occasionally they weren't. I can remember when Joe was in college, she brought one of her friends over for Shabbos.
So we're discussing in chapter 15, just filling everyone in,
Yeah.
all about how to break out of a rut, how to get into something new that we never did before and we want to get into.
Right. Get into, like when Donna came and, you know, to go through all these things, and it wasn't new to us, but it was to her, and so that we try to work it around so that she was comfortable.
Right, like
too.
when we travel or when we change scenery and we get a new perspective, sometimes when I go away from home, like for a couple of days or a trip or whatever, an event, and then I come back home, I look around and I have like new ideas. Does that ever happen to you?
Well, so you know, I think about that with your brother-in-law and sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Like, because they're someplace
Shout
different
out
all
to
the
Danny
time.
and Razel on That Jewish Family. We're talking about you.
Yeah. And I wonder, like,
Yeah.
so they go someplace different. I mean, sometimes they're, you know, like
Right.
with mishpacha or whatever.
Right,
but
right,
sometimes they're someplace totally different. And I wonder, do they keep something from each place that they go to?
Right.
Do they bring it to someplace different? And I try to remember sometimes,
Yes.
you know, because they obviously can't show it to us on Shabbos.
For sure.
So they'll show it to us, like tell us about it on Sunday. And sometimes they'll be like, I need to remember that. And then
Right.
of course comes Thursday and I'm like, I totally forgot what they said.
Yeah, travel does that. That's such a good point, because travel like opens us up to new ideas and hey, you know, these people do it that way and it's so different from the people on that side of the world who do it that way. So it totally gives us a new perspective and helps us, another way of helping us break that routine of like, why did I always do it that way? I don't have to do it that way. I can do it a new way. I can bring something
Are we bettering
new.
our routine by doing it that way?
Right. Right.
But we have brought in other people's side dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's always fun to like
this is
spice
what
it up.
Facebook is good for, because Facebook is like shows you
Yes.
different menus.
It's good
and
to know
whatever.
when to turn Facebook on and off, you know, like how
Right.
when it's helping and then when it's like distracting.
Well, I like Facebook for recipes.
Yes.
So I've used a lot of people's side dish recipes,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not so big on using people's entrees, because I'm afraid what happens if I don't like that entree, or my company doesn't like the entree, then I'm kind of stuck. But
Yeah,
I'll be
that, and
doing
everyone's
my side
hungry, and
dishes.
the main dish didn't work out, so
Right.
we're gonna have to order pizza or something.
She's a wonderful cook.
I'm sure, of course you are. I know, I've experienced it.
But I do change. That's the one change I do bring in
Yeah, like
to my
appetizers and
routines
sides.
is sides.
Yes,
That
salads
I've
are
been
fun.
daring on.
So love it. So let's go back inside the text. So it says on page 187 in the Practical Tanya, or if mindful meditation doesn't bear its fruit, and thanks for all those great ideas. I love it. We'll have to incorporate that. If mindful meditation does not bear its fruit and produce a passionate love for God, right? Because sometimes we can meditate and like I don't feel differently, right? It doesn't help. At least it can like join the struggle and awaken the dormant love in the heart. So we talked about there's an inner love, like a deep, passionate, burning love for God that we don't always feel, and sometimes it's fast asleep in our souls. Limshal al yada al tava shabachal asmali, so we can wake up that love and it can dominate our natural disposition that is centered in the left chamber of the heart. So yeah, we can have a natural personality type. We can take the Myers-Briggs personality quiz and find out if we're extrovert, introvert, right? Like intuitive sensing, thinking, feeling, perceiving, judging. We can figure out everything about our personality type, and that's me, that's it. I'm stuck, that's my nature, that's how I was born. Don't bother me, I'm not changing. That's just who I am. And if that's holding us back in any way, we have to remember that that's just part of us. Like, we're not bound by our natures and how we're born and our feelings that just naturally arise. We have an entire other part of our hearts. There's a godly part in our heart, a complete love of Hashem that can dominate the natural disposition, right? We always have a fighting force. There's always another side. Shazai nikra gamkein avaida. For this too counts as service, right? Just trying, just getting into that struggle, jumping into the boxing ring, that counts. Lehilachem imatava v'hayetzer, since it requires us to wrestle with our nature and our inclination. Al yadei shema'ar ha'ava misateres b'libay, through awakening at least the dormant love of the heart, sufficient for us to change. So above we argued that just waking up that love, it doesn't count as service because it's just, we're born with that love, right? We're born with an inner, like, deep love of Hashem. So now the Tanya is saying that it is serving Hashem, waking up the love. So what do you think? What do you guys think? If you're waking up an inner love that's already yours, is that comfort zone or is that growth zone? Is that something that's naturally we're born with, or is that something that we have to push ourselves to do? If we're waking up a dormant love of God that's in our hearts.
I think it's a combination of the two.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the Myers-Briggs thing, I mean, that changes too.
Right.
You know, I mean, when you have your first job as a teenager, your personality and all is one way. When you're a mom, your personality is totally different.
Exactly.
You know, I think what you open yourself up to, and how you view how your mindfulness of God is when you're single or you're married, and your mindfulness of God when you're a mama of this little munchkin is also different too.
Exactly.
So I think some of it is what you're born with, and some of it is what you're opening yourself up to, because
That's
you can't
true.
open yourself up to just you. Your life is no longer
Exactly.
just you.
We do change so much throughout our lives and all the stages and ages. I love that. So it is effort, you're saying. It's natural, but it's effort.
I think it's different. I think when you're just you, I don't mean to make it sound so selfish that, when you're a teenager, you don't think about your siblings and your parents,
but we grow.
I think you do think much more about just you.
Exactly, absolutely.
As opposed to when you're mom, you think about your spouse and your children, and
100%.
probably more of your parents than you do when you're a teenager.
Totally.
So it's still inherently in you, and it's still opening up you.
Yes, so true. So too with the Benoni, exactly like you said. Whenever we do, a little bit more, right? We push ourselves a little bit more in Torah and mitzvot. It's always serving God. It inevitably requires effort, right? Like it says on the sidebar, ideal service of God doesn't mean becoming a tzaddik. It doesn't mean becoming perfect people. It means struggling to be the best person that we can be, right? We can all just become a little bit better. Every day we can, that, I think there's this book, this guy who writes about being 1% better. We can always be 1% better. To do this, we need to practice mindful meditation on the greatness of God to generate real feelings for God, or at least awaken the existing love of God in our soul. So how do we get that push? What's the engine fuel? What's going to get us there is saying, I love God so much, and I have like a deep, passionate love of Hashem that's going to get me over that speed bump and outside of my comfort zone to the growth zone, to pushing myself and being my best me. Right? To like look outside and like just open up our eyes and maybe do something that's just a little bit more difficult. Masha Inkin. Right, so before we said there's like a minimal awakening of the dormant love, but here it's being used to break free of the hold and grow. So it is definitely considered service, right? Just using that inner push. But that's not the case if there's no battle with the animal soul at all. This natural dormant love of God, which didn't require significant effort to awaken, doesn't qualify as service at all. So we're kind of going back and forth on this discussion here, but what does it say? We're going to sum up. So we just finished chapter 15, right? So because we naturally have a battle with our animal souls, it's always considered hard work, right? It's never going to become easy, right? No matter how many times someone wins a marathon, a run's never going to become easy. Like we said, it's effort, it's just a little more challenging. So to sum up, in chapter 15, we have encountered 4 different types of the Benoni. They all differ in the level of effort they make to serve God. We're on page 188, wrapping up chapter 15 of the Tanya. We have met the effortless Benoni. The first guy is the effortless Benoni. He has no significant inner struggle. He was born with a naturally observant personality. Everything is A++, walk in the park, piece of cake, easy breezy, no issues. Does a great job, right? Those students, and just no problem. Everything is perfect. Then we were introduced to our static Benoni, the second guy. He struggled in the past to reach his current level of observance or his current level of whatever he's excelling in, but now it has become his second nature. So imagine the people, they worked really, really hard to get to where they are, and now it flows. Now it's not a big deal at all. Both of these Benonim, they don't serve God in the same sense. They haven't invested that substantive effort in their worship. They are going based on their natural strengths and talents. But now we have someone, right? They don't serve God in that sense. The Tanya distinguished between incomplete and ideal levels of effort. The incomplete Benoni, he does wrestle with his emotions. He doesn't make enough effort to generate real feelings for God. He relies too much on just the natural love of God. Like he basically is going on autopilot a little bit. But the ideal Benoni, right? The one we're not here for perfection. We're not here to check off all the check marks on the chart and get A++. That's not why we're here. Hashem didn't create us with an animal soul and with struggles because he wants someone perfect, right? If he wanted a perfect world, he would have created a beautiful planet Earth full of angels, and that's it. And he would get all of the tests would be 100%, no problem, everyone wins, great job, gold trophies for everyone, gold medals for everyone, blue ribbons, it would all be wonderful, right? But guess what? Hashem didn't create a world like that. He didn't create a world of perfect angels and perfect people. He created us. And we can be upset, like, how come Hashem made life so difficult for me? And why do I struggle? And why is it not always so easy to have a great day? And why do I feel stressed sometimes? And why do I feel like life is not always coming at me like easy peasy, pumpkin squeezy, like no issues? But Hashem didn't create us that way for a reason. And we have to think about it. Hashem must want me this way. I must be this way for a reason. And he actually wants me to deal with my personality and my challenges and my struggles exactly how they are. He doesn't want me to change at all. He just wants me to go one extra step outside of my comfort zone. And that might not be perfect A++ on paper. That might be going from 2 steps to 3 steps, right? Like, you know how, let's say you start working out and you want to do a pull-up or a chin-up, whatever it's called, and you get onto the bar and you can barely do 1. But that 1 is better than 0, right? So that's what Hashem wants from us. It doesn't matter if you don't do 100 chin-ups. If you go from 0 to 1, Hashem says, I'm so happy. Like, you are excelling, you are winning, you're shining, you're a diamond, because you're using that inner strength and that inner core muscle to shine and to be amazing and to be your best self. So who is this ideal Benoni? Who's in this book of the in-betweener that we're trying to be like? The ideal Benoni, wrapping up chapter 15, he devotes a lot of effort to mindful meditation. He aims at developing a strong emotional attachment to his creator. He may never fully saturate his heart with feelings for God like a tzaddik, but he struggles to do his very best. And since he's never going to become a tzaddik through his own innate talents, right? That's a gift given from Hashem to be perfect, like a holy saint. These ongoing efforts represent ideal service for him, the best person he can be. So how do we become the best people we can be? Go for that one more. I love it. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. And any questions about how to be our best selves, how to take 1 step extra? Go for that one more, and have a wonderful, amazing week. Thank you so much, and thanks for tuning into Kabbalah with a sip of espresso. Have a great one.